Hello, good evening, and welcome everyone to this wonderful session titled The Contest Edge. Tonight, we have the privilege of learning from a speaker who has spent more than 3 decades helping individuals and organizations unlock the power of communication. Mark LaVergne, he's the president of Express with Success Inc., where he has coached
Right.
executives, trained leaders, and elevated communicators across the globe. He was a past international director of Toastmasters International, and Mark has served at the highest level of leadership, but he continues to lead in Toastmasters. His journey spans from the corporate world, where he managed international clients at Citicorp, to the world stage of Toastmasters, where his passion for helping people find their voice has left a lasting impact. Mark combines professional expertise, global perspective, and a deep love for the art of speaking. And tonight, he's here to give us the edge to show us how to create a speech that wins. So please join us in giving a warm District 46 welcome to Mark LaVergne. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Stella, our program quality director, Stella. By the way, Stella, this past year served as our club growth director for District 46 and earned the Club Extension Award. Our district was the top ranking district in North America in regions 1 through 7, which is not only actually North America, the Caribbean, and South America. So District 46, Stella was the key person as the marketing, worked with George Rivera and Rosalie Reyes Co. And they led our district, District 46, to #1 district in regions 1 through 7, which is the Western Hemisphere, North and South and Central America and the Caribbean. So thank you, Stella. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be part of this event, honored always to be part of anything involving the mighty District 46. I'm so proud. And yes, I did serve as District 46 governor a long, long time ago. Just trying to close some of these windows here. And I'm so proud to see District 46 doing so well and continuing to do so well as we move forward. Tonight, I am doing something that I was originally supposed to be part of a 3-person panel that included the first place winner, the third place winner, and myself. And unfortunately, the other two couldn't make it. So I guess I'm going to have to represent them as well. And so you're stuck with me. You're stuck with me for the next few minutes. But hopefully, as we get a lot of good conversation, good questions from you. And by the way, I'm not the only one here who has competed. We have other people in this audience that have competed, that have been like Robert Dong, I see, Seth Greenwald, Anna, I believe you've competed, and many, many others. Dennis, I believe you've competed. So let's get, okay, Anna hasn't competed yet. So let's just jump in with your own, don't hesitate to jump in with questions, but also with comments and thoughts from your own experience and your own observation of the contest process. So again, I was the second place winner in about 4 months ago. So I'll be speaking a little bit from that experience, as well as from having been a District 46 first place winner, I think 3 times in the past, as well as in the online. We'll be talking a little bit about online later on, so I'll discuss that as well. Can everyone see the slide, the contest edge, the slide? It sort of dominates the screen, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm also seeing all of you on the side, so I can see how all of you are doing and faring and being part of this process. What are we going to be looking at tonight? Well, we're going to be looking at why participate. And let's begin actually with, some of you have your screens shut. That's fine, that's cool, but you can still communicate with the group. By a show of hands or by a reaction, how many of you have competed at the club level contest or higher? Okay, so keep your hands up. Robert, Helen, Mark, Tom, Seth. It's about half. Dennis, wait, hold on. Yes, Dennis from Global Yoga. So that's about half of us here have participated. The other half of you, and I'm looking at Talbot and Catherine, and Rowena, Venice, Anna, Rhiannon, and you can put your hands down now. Thank you, everyone. The rest of you that haven't participated, I hope that you'll give it a try. I hope you'll and do it as soon as the next couple of weeks when we do the online speech contest, which is so exciting. And I'll be talking a lot about that later on because I want to give some tips on the online speech contest from my own experience and from my own observation. So why participate? We're going to be looking at the rules versus the rules. And you'll say, what's that all about? Well, you'll find out later. So then giving you a few clues to success, some clues and thoughts about how to select a topic that will interest your audience and hopefully help you win, a few other tips. Then we'll be looking at a deep dive into online speech contests, which is the upcoming District 46 event. And then we'll be taking questions from the audience as well as taking other comments from you as well. So thank you very much for that. Okay, why participate? How many of you, again, we're going to do another show of hands. How many of you belong to clubs and you can raise your hand or you can raise your hand electronically? How many of you belong to clubs where they vote for best speaker? And I'm one of those clubs, by the way. Gray Bar votes for best speaker. And, you know, let's be candid. When you are good, so we got about half the room has clubs that, okay, Rhiannon, okay, her club goes for best speaker as well. So here's the thing. When you are a project speaker, Pathways project speaker, and by the way, all of you give speeches at your clubs that are project speeches, right? In the Pathways educational program, I hope that's the case. No free speeches in Toastmasters. Every speech you give in Toastmasters is for Pathways credit. But when you give a Pathways project speech and your club votes for best speaker, be honest. It kind of makes you like, wow, boy, I better really be good. I better try my best because after all, they're going to be voting on me. They're going to decide who the best speaker is. I belong to two clubs that do best speaker. And Gray Bar, I think, we don't do that. No, they stopped that. So I belong to one club that does best speaker and I belong to two that don't. And honestly, when I give speeches at the one club that does the best speaker, I'm a lot more focused and I'd really try my hardest a lot more with my speeches at that one club where we have best speaker versus the two clubs where we don't have best speaker. There I can kind of relax, I can be a little sloppy, etc., etc. So why participate? Because when you jump in and participate in a speech contest, beginning at the club level, it will raise your excellence. It will raise your level of excellence. It will really make you a lot more focused than when you just give regular speeches at your club meetings. So right there, forget about who comes in first or last or third or second. Right from the get-go, just participating. And the extra stress that's involved with being judged, that alone will focus you and kind of maybe stress you out. Let's be honest, it stresses me out when I compete, but that stress is good. And that stress will help you bring out the very best in your abilities. And if you can, and I know the contest rules sort of vary on this, but where there are opportunities to record yourself, maybe at the club contest they allow that, maybe a friend at the area, it's always good to have a recording of yourself as you compete. So even if you don't place, even if you don't get a trophy, you can still see yourself, a recording of yourself under extreme contest conditions where all the chips are on the table and your reputation. No, it's not quite that bad. But by the contest experience, the stress, the slight pressure really will bring out the very best in you. And that's what you want. And everyone who's competed, I will tell you, everyone who's competed, okay, cancel, okay, whatever. Okay. I think I need to lower my hand. I think I accidentally raised my hand. So that alone will help you improve your public speaking and your ability. The second thing, I want to share with you the tale of Tom and Mark. And this is a photo that was taken at the Division E contest about 4 months ago. You can see on the far right our very famous immediate past district director, George Rivera. And at the far right, our incoming famous district director, Rosalie Reyes-Cole. Stella was in the audience. I think Stella was taking the photo. Thank you, Stella, always helping us. But also Stella was saying, hold on, Stella was club growth at that time, and club growth doesn't handle contests. So it's under the portfolio of the program quality at the far right, and at the far left was, of course, our district director. But look at the two people in the middle, not so much at me. No, no, no. Look at the gentleman on the far left, the second from the left. His name is Tom McKeon. There were two of us from my club that competed in the speech contest process this year. Two people from Gray Bar, Tom McKeon and Mark LaVergne, Tom and Mark. You know, I was privileged. I mean, I can't tell you how lucky I felt. I got to go to the district. I was one of 6 finalists at the district conference in May. It was up in New Rochelle in Westchester County. It was such a cool experience. My friend Tom, my clubmate Tom, he didn't get to go to the district, but he competed at the area and won. He competed at the division. He didn't win, but he came in 3rd. Tom is 82 years old. Tom was competing for the very first time in the contest. And I've known Tom a long time. I've known Tom for years. Tom, when he first joined Toastmasters, stuttered. He had a serious stuttering issue. He went to the various support groups for stutterers, and it was through that group that he found Toastmasters, and he joined Toastmasters about 15 years ago when I first met Tom. Tom competed for the first time 5 months ago, and I tell you, he blossomed. Speech contests aren't just for people who compete all the time. They're not just for the Mark Williams. They're not just for Mario Lewis. They're not just for Rosalie Reyes-Coe, who came in 2nd in the district, or George Rivera, who came in 1st, or Seth Greenwald, who's been a veteran contestant, has done really well over the years. And they're not for Mark LaVergne. Or for Robert Dong, who's been a finalist as well. No, speech contests are for Tom McKeon too. And they're for anyone who's not sure about their confidence in public speaking. They're for someone like Tom, who stuttered for most of his life, who first competed in a Toastmasters speech contest at the age of 82 and was so boosted in his self-confidence that in June, our club elected Tom McKeon club president. He's now the president of Gray Bar Toastmasters. They didn't ask me to be an officer, but that's fine. I've been an officer in so many clubs. I said, no, I've done enough. But Tom, so speech contests are for everyone. And you may not get to be a district finalist, as I was privileged to be in May, but you can be Tom McKeon. You can go to the area, have a blast, go to the division, have a blast, boost your confidence. And who knows, you might end up being the club president in a couple of months, as is the case with Tom McKeon. So please keep that in mind. Speech contests are for everyone. That's why we participate. Yes, of course, the excitement and the drama and all the stress pushes us forward and makes us a lot better than we would otherwise be. But it can give us an opportunity at the age, in his early 80s, competing for the very first time, doing really well, having a blast, and being built up so much in confidence that we made him our club president for the current Toastmasters year. Way to go, Tom McKeon. Rules. Rules versus rules. We're going to be going over a little bit about some of the rules, and I don't want to spend a lot of time, but there are and Anna Stepanova. Did I pronounce your last name right, Anna?
It was perfect.
Okay. Anna she was our district chief judge last year. Anna has been in touch with World Headquarters on a number of issues this past year as our district chief judge. And now, of course, she's serving our district. In other words, she knows all about the so-called rules versus the actual rules. Seth Greenwald, can you give us an example of a mythical speech contest rule that you have maybe encountered in your many years of Toastmasters experience that you know is actually not a rule, but is treated as a rule?
The rule that you have to greet all the Toastmasters at the beginning of your speech, in the formal way. You don't have to do that, but it helps because it's perceived as a rule. That's right. They say, yeah, Seth, you better greet the district director and the contest chair, blah, blah, blah. Actually, it's not in the speech contest rules. How about you, Anna? Anything that you want to share from your experience?
There are rules, there are district customs, and the standard response of speech contest TI is it's up to a contest leadership how to handle certain situations. My favorite that speech titles cannot be put on the speech contest agenda. That's not a rule. It's not in the rule book.
Well, here's one rule that is, I think, still a rule. You can't put the educational levels or the PDG or the DTM or PID on the agenda. But Anna's right. There's no problem with putting the speech contest rules on the agenda. Now, if you're a speech contest organizer, I know why a lot of them don't do that, why they don't put the speech contest titles on the agenda. And that's because sometimes the contestants will change their mind at the last minute. And contestants have that right to do so. And so sometimes, unless you can revise your agenda like at the last second or whatever, sometimes there is. So I understand why, but it's not a rule. There's no rule that says you can't put the contest titles on the agenda. Absolutely right. How about, for example, here's one. The speaker, as you know, when they announce the contest, when they have the contest, Roseanne, for example, at your club, and your club is the host, Roseanne, for the area contest, and they say, okay, this is this prescribed speaking area. Contestants must speak within a certain area. And somebody, maybe they forget, they're a little absent-minded, or they're overexcited, and they happen to go maybe 3 inches beyond the line. One of the so-called mythical rules is that they are disqualified, even if they have the best score of all the contestants. No, it's not. It's not a reason for disqualification. However, judges can sort of put that in and say, well, maybe he was a little forgetful, and factor that into the scoring, but it's not a point of disqualification. Okay, so that's one of the rules. One of the myths is that the speech has to be funny. The speech has to be on a serious topic, but it has to be funny. No, those aren't rules. There's nothing in the rules about that. The rule is simply this: it has to be 5 to 7 minutes with a 30-second leeway. So, you have to speak for a minimum of 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and you better not speak for more than 7 minutes and 30 seconds, because either way you'll be disqualified. So 5 to 7 minutes on a topic of your own choosing. Okay. And there are rules about if you reference another source, if you mention Shakespeare, you quote Shakespeare, you got to mention, hey, it's from our old friend Will Shakespeare, So you've got to cite sources in your speeches. We had a sad situation last year at the World Championship of Public Speaking. And Stella knows, she was there. We had 8 finalists. Now, 2 of them were disqualified for time. A third contestant was disqualified because she got the group to sing the famous song by Queen. We will rock you, bum, bum, bum. Yeah. And we were all going like, yeah. And I was in the audience, yeah, we will rock you. I was like really into it. But the poor lady, somebody didn't advise her. She forgot to say, oh, and the song by Queen, and she got disqualified. And she was one of the top 8 speakers in the world. She might have gotten a trophy. Who knows? She might have won. But the poor thing was disqualified because she forgot to mention that the song that she was quoting from and that she got us to participate in was not her own song, was a song from Queen. To be honest with you, I thought it was the dumbest thing, because I thought we all know it's from Queen. Everyone knows. But technically, the poor thing disqualified herself. So there are rules versus rules. Whoop. What did I just do? Okay, now let's get into some tips for success. You're thinking, okay, what do I got to do to have a winning speech? Well, for crying out loud, the first thing you want to do is figure out what the judges are going to be thinking of when they're listening to your speeches. And if you're not sure what that is, no problem. I was in a hurry to put together this presentation, and so I couldn't find the judge's rule. This is from the International Speech Contest Judges Guide and Ballot. And by the way, they have Judges Guide and Ballot for all the other speech contests. Guess what? You go into your Google or any search engine, you type in Toastmaster Speech Contest Ballot, boom. Within 5 seconds, you'll be able to get this information. It's because it's right on the Toastmasters website. It's probably on the District 46 website, okay? So what I'm saying, this is not anything mysterious. But if you take a look at that, half of it is content. So for those of you that say, oh, the speech contest, it's just a lot of acting and people sounding, they're sounding impressive, but it's all shallow and no material to it. Au contraire. The judges are required to look at things like speech development. Was there structure? Was there organization? Was there support material? Or was it just a series of uncontested claims and uncontested theories and ideas without any kind of support material, without any kind of stories or evidence? Okay. Was there speech value? Was there logic? Yes. So that's 50%. Another 30% goes to things, the physical, right? The gestures, the voice, the manner. Was the person confident? Did they seem approachable and accessible to the audience members? And then finally, it's 20% that has to do with language, quality language. Is it elevated language? And again, we'll go through a little bit later on that. So, the first clue to success, if you want to do well in the coming year as a speech contestant, look at the judge's guide and ballot. That's a very important clue. And spend a lot of time and think about it. And by the way, it's not just numbers. Each of those categories that you're seeing there, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 categories that are scored. There is on the back side of the ballot descriptions. Now, I don't have room and the size of the PowerPoint slide, so I just gave information on 3 of the 8, the 3 that deal with content. Take your time. If you're going to be a judge, sure, you're going to be used to that. And some of you who are competing this year have been judges, so you're going to have an edge over maybe somebody like Catherine, or maybe someone like Amir, or Talbot. I don't know. Some of you are on this call and maybe you've never competed before. Maybe you've been in Toastmasters for the very first time. By the way, I joined Toastmasters in April. I won't tell you what year it was because some of you weren't even born. So I joined Toastmasters in April and I was really into it. And we had from District 46, District 46, we had somebody who made it to the World Finals, the World Championship of Public Speaking that year. Her name was Reverend, well, now she's a Reverend. By the time, her name was Ruby Walyuwan. Brilliant lady. Stella, we got to look her up and try to get her. Maybe she can do a keynote or be one of your workshops. Anyway, so we had somebody from our district at the international convention, and luckily the convention was in Washington, D.C. So I took a Friday off from work. So I joined in April. I went to my first convention 4 months later in August to see Ruby and to cheer for Ruby in the World Championship of Public Speaking. And about 2 months later, I competed in my first contest. So 6 months after I joined Toastmasters, I competed in my first contest. It was a table topic contest. I won't go into that now. I didn't do too well. But anyway, I competed. It was fun. And so for some of you that are like, well, I don't know, I just joined last month. I don't know. Hey, come on. That's not an excuse to participate. So all this stuff, you can find it on the Toastmasters website. Now, clue to success number 2. Ta-da! There are people that will charge you money, former world champions. They'll charge you money to coach you and to give you advice on how to win, how to compete. Hey, you know what? A lot of this stuff is free. I mean, this is free. And guess what? As a dues-paying member with access to Pathways, this is free too. And hopefully all of you will, take seriously the first 3 projects in Pathways. You look at these first 3 projects, and they'll give you a lot of clues to what makes for a successful speech in the speech contest. What's the first project in Pathways? Come on, Roseanne, you know the answer.
Icebreaker.
Icebreaker, that's right. And the icebreaker is talking about what? Yourself. Roseanne, is yourself a very favorite topic of yours? I mean,
most of the time.
Yeah, you think about yourself a lot, don't you, Roseanne? And her own case, same thing for you at Ernst & Young. Well, guess what? They're really successful. And if you look at the 6, there are 5 finalists, or was it 6, at the district contest in May. Every single one. By the way, I wish some of them were here tonight. They were all great. I loved them all. I mean, I felt so privileged to be there. But all of us who made it to that level as district finalists, and by the way, it's kind of a big deal. All of us gave speeches in which we used material from our own life. And doesn't that make sense? You're in the audience and you got this guy or gal on the stage and blah, 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 blah. And you know what? As you're watching them talk, you're thinking, gee, I wonder where they're from. Yeah, God knows what. But while they're talking about all that stuff, part of you is like thinking, well, who are they? And what are they all about? What's their story? Same thing with speech contests. And that's why speeches where you employ information, stories, examples from your own life tend to be very, very successful. Does that make sense? And you may say, you know, Mark, there's nothing really interesting about me. You know, nobody died in my family. I grew up in kind of ordinary circumstances. You know, I went to high school. I went to college. Nothing unusual happened to me. Well, hell, you know what? When you went to work today, you probably saw something that was a bit odd. Maybe on the subway, maybe while driving, right? How many of you drive and you know there's a lot of odd stuff on the highway, right? Maybe on the way home. Maybe you heard something at work about someone, right? That's a little like, ooh, what's that all about? Okay. Maybe you have a weird relative. How many of us have weird relatives? I have a lot of weird relatives, right? I tell you, I got them all over my family, okay? Well, so you may not have such an exciting and dramatic life where you can tell wild tales in your speech contest speech, but you've all observed things that have instructive value, that are interesting, intriguing, from which you can tease out some transcendent value. And we'll get to that a little later on. Writing a speech with purpose. This is the second project in Pathways. This is about message focus. If you have a 5 to 7 minute speech that's about 3 different things, that's not going to do as well as a speech that's about one single message, one single topic. So writing a speech with purpose is about having a single focus, mission-driven in your speech, right, Seth Greenwald? I mean, what is your moniker? Sherpa, right? That is your thing. Everyone knows you are the Sherpa because that has been your tagline for many, many years. Everyone knows that if they're sitting in with Seth, they're gonna hear stuff that's going to improve the quality of their lives and improve the quality of their work. Okay, so your speeches have to have, your winning speeches and Toastmasters have to have a clear purpose. Now, they don't always have to be so explicit at the beginning. You know, you can sort of kind of weave your way into the topic, you know, and sometimes you don't want to be so obvious because then sometimes the audience will say, oh man, I heard that already. I think I heard that at an HR workshop at the office two days ago. Oh no. So sometimes you have to kind of sort of glide into your topic, sort of ease into it without letting on what you're talking about. The third project in Pathways, vocal variety and body language. Hey, you gotta have some vocal. Yeah. Today I'm going to talk to you about nuclear fission, and hopefully you better like it because if you don't, and if you don't pay attention, the world's going to blow up. No, I mean, you know, you got to have a little variety there in your vocal tone and manner, and of course, body language is very, very important. Now, when you're on stage, body language is important, but even when you're doing online, and we're going to be talking about how to use body language effectively online. Hey, here's a quick quiz. You're all from District 46, just about. What is the one speech contest program that District 46 is running this fall? Anybody know? Stella knows, Anna knows. Who knows? Helen, go ahead.
It's the online speech contest.
That's right. So later on, I'll be giving some tips on online speech contests. So wait for it, because you can wait until the spring to try speech contests, but who knows? You might have moved to Seattle by then. Maybe you got a job offer in London. Maybe your cat died and you don't feel like competing next spring. So why wait till the spring? You can jump in now and do the speech contest in a few weeks at your club at area level. Okay, topic selection. Now, this is so important. This is so important. Venn diagrams. Oh, we all remember Venn diagrams from like 4th grade. Well, I went to an advanced school, so it was 4th grade. Some of you maybe were 3rd grade. But anyway, Venn diagrams. Well, here's the way to pick a good topic. There are topics that are interesting to your audience. There are topics that are interesting to you. The overlap between topics that are interesting to your audience and topics that are interesting to you is the sweet spot. That's where you'll find speech contest topics that will succeed. Speech contest topics in which you're interested in the topic. And hopefully your audience will find some value in it as well. Yes, you want to be passionate about what it is you're going to share in a contest. Absolutely, you want to be passionate. But somehow you want to find something that you're passionate about that you hope the audience will be interested too. You may be passionate about animal rights. I donate sometimes to the ASPCA. By the way, I'm sorry I did, because now I get to there. My address was sold to all the other companies, all the other nonprofits that do animal rights. But anyway, the point is that, you know, I know there. I mean, I'm kind of into animal rights, right? I know a lot of you are too. But you know what? Not everyone really. I mean, people may say, yeah, animal rights. I guess that's sort of interesting, but it may not really be their thing. And so you decide you're going to give a speech contest about animal rights because that's your number one passion. But guess what? The audience may not be not everyone in the audience, maybe not even 2/3 of the people in the audience are going to be all that interested in animal rights. So you're going to lose. And by the way, there's no losers, but you will not win first place. The person that wins first place, he or she will have a speech topic that will interest a broader percentage of the audience. So finding the sweet spot is about finding a topic that you're passionate about, but also the audience is going to be passionate about. And by the way, before we get to online contests, which we will in a few minutes, it really is important that you care about your topic, because if you are lucky enough to make it to the district level, as 6 of us did this past May, that means most likely, by the way, about 99% of our contestants, the speech they give at the club level usually ends up being the speech they give 3 months later at the district level, if they make it that far. And why is that? Because it's really hard to put together a winning speech, okay? And so if you've got one topic that is, you know, helped you won the club contest, and you won with that topic, and you won with that speech, you're thinking, you know, I think I'm going to give that speech at the area, because man, I won the club and I think it's good enough to make the area. So what I'm getting at is that you had better be in love with your topic. It better be a topic that you're interested in, because otherwise, if you go through 3 months of rehearsal and practice and memorization, and you're not really into your topic, you're going to get bored after a month. And when you go to the area contest or the division contest and you're walking in and you are already bored with your topic, guess what? The audience is going to know that. And they think you're bored, they're going to think, well, why should I be interested? So it's got to be a topic that you are really passionate and you care about. And that's why in many cases, the content, as I mentioned, often is about one's own personal life. If it was a memorable experience in your life, maybe even a searing experience, then talking about it will not be tiresome for you, because it'll be something that was really, really important to you. Now let's talk about online contests. And I've got a lot of material on that, because again, I don't want you to wait till February before you compete in a club contest. Don't wait do it now. The District 46 has very thoughtfully offered and organized the online speech contest. What we know about online, by the way, I bring some experience to it. 3 years ago, as a member of a club in Founders District, that's in Southern California, I was lucky enough to come in second in my district in the international speech contest, which was online only. And I tell you, it's very, very, very different from the on stage. So what works, and here's the key thing, what works on stage may not work on Zoom, and vice versa. And here's the really cool thing. When we do these online contests in the next couple months, there are things that you'll be able to do via Zoom that will be super effective that would not work on stage. If you have, for example, a very animated face, like a Jim Carrey type of face, well, maybe not as extreme as Jim Carrey, but let's say you have a very expressive face and all of that, that will benefit you in a Zoom contest, because they really can't see your toes, they can't really see your shoes, but boy, they can see your face. And if you have a good expressive face, That's a lot more valuable to you in a Zoom contest than it will be when you compete on stage and your face is basically swallowed up by the background, by your body, by all these other elements. And so we will get into that shortly. So online contests. Now, we know what works on stage. I'm going to give you some examples. This was from 24 years ago. I'm going to give you the example of 2 speech contests that were on stage that were world champions. They, each in their own way, changed the paradigm. And by the way, you can find them on YouTube. So look it up. Okay, one of them was 2001, Ouch, the World Championship of Public Speaking, Darren Lacroix. Okay. He opened his speech. Now, this was a man that had training in comedy. This was a man that opened his speech by literally falling on his face. Now, because of his experience in comedy, he knew how to break a fall. So he didn't injure himself. And he had done this in rehearsal after rehearsal. So he was experienced with falling down and without hurting himself. Now, you couldn't do that in a Zoom environment, but you can do that on stage. Okay. And yes, he fell down, and that's the opening shot. And yes, he made it to the ground without hurting himself. So that's from the video. I took little screenshots. You can see that, yeah, it worked. Again, you can do that on stage. And maybe we'll see somebody falling on their face next spring. Who knows? But hold on, I wouldn't try that because there'll be judges that will say, Darren Lacroix did that 20 years ago. That's not original. But anyway, that's another issue. And of course, he did other things on the stage. He was able to point to different characters in his speech, and he was able to place them on the stage. 11 years earlier, another path-breaking contestant used the stage very effectively. Now, what do you notice about this guy? This guy was wearing blue jeans. Now, until then, everyone used to wear a suit. And by the way, if you went to the district contest last May in District 46, everyone was dressed very neatly and very professionally. I even had a tie on. I mean, my God. I mean, tonight I'm more relaxed, but I had a tie on, and so did the other male contestants, and all the women were dressed very professionally. But he did and by the way, he was sort of in costume, and you'd have to look it up, Silver Bullets. I highly recommend. There was a lot of things he did in his speech. One thing he did, he had great audience participation. He had great audience recall. Hi-oh, Silver was sort of a tagline in his speech, which to that audience 35 years ago resonated with that particular generation. And everyone in the audience went, hi-oh, Silver. Why am I mentioning that? Because in a Zoom contest, you can't do that. In a Zoom contest, there is no audience feedback. In a Zoom contest, you really can't interact with the audience. You really can't do with what that lady did last year, where she did the song from Queen, and we will rock you. And everyone in the audience, there were like 1,500 people in Anaheim that went, yeah, we will rock you. You can't do that in Zoom, but you can do that on stage. Now, let's talk about Zoom. As I mentioned, what works on stage may not work on Zoom, and vice versa. But Zoom has many interesting possibilities, and I hope that all of you compete or at least try to represent your clubs at the area this fall. What we know, people may say, well, I don't know, Zoom, it's kind of boring. It's a fixed camera. They don't zoom in, they don't pan in, there's no swivel. It's fixed camera. Boy, that's ridiculous. But guess what? 60, 70 years ago, people in the early pioneering years of television, I won't go too much into this, actually succeeded. And there are a lot of great examples. I've done longer presentations about what we can learn from the early years of television that apply to online presentation. And by the way, when I talk about online speech contests, which is now and in the next few months, this is not just about competing in a contest or even winning an online contest. This is about your professional success. How many of you work in teams where not everyone in your team is in New York? Right? Yeah, I'm on teams too. By the way, I'm semi-retired, but I'm still working. Okay, and yeah, and so being able to effectively communicate on Zoom or WebEx or whatever the medium is, or the vendor, is very, very effective in this expanding global economy. Because after the terrible, terrible, deathly pandemic that our world experienced, we were all forced online. And though things have changed for the good in terms of people being able to hug and all that, companies and people began to see the value, especially the cost-saving value of online communication, right? Rather than flying people into to a conference site with a great expense. Hey, we'll just have an online conference. We'll save a lot of money. Okay. So what I'm sharing here is of value to you in your own professional presentations on Zoom. And I hope you think of it that way as well. Okay. This is taken from I'm going to share with you some shots from the 2020 and the 2021 World Championship of Public Speaking. This is the Toastmasters International final level of the International Speech Contest. It takes place in August. So everyone who makes it that far has been a club winner, area division winner, district winner, quarterfinal winner, and semifinal winner. And in 2020 and in 2021, the speech contests for Toastmasters International were purely Zoom, purely online. And so look at this guy. Now, what I want to point out here is check out that prop. The fine detail on that mug could be communicated in a Zoom contest, but you can never do anything like that in an onstage. Because like, again, you're on stage. There's your body. You try to hold up a mug in front of 50 people, and you expect the person in the back of the room to be able to see the fine detail and be able to realize, oh, it's a dragon, fire-breathing dragon mug. Of course not. But in Zoom, you can do that, and the audience will immediately intuit what it's all about. Again, this I forget his name. He did not win a trophy, but he was a great finalist. I loved his speech. He talked about football. And again, by being able to get the camera to focus on his face and the football, he could draw everyone's attention to two factors, him and football. There are no distractions. Nobody could stare at his big shoes or, whether there was a wrinkle in his pants. No, he was able to get the folks to focus. Okay. This lady, Linda Marie Miller, she came in second that year. Now, if you compete in a speech contest today on a stage and you hold up sort of a tripod with a big poster board with words, people are going to, oh, what's that all about, right? Dull, boring, but she was able to make it effective, and she made it work in a Zoom environment. That was 7 words, a 7-word graphic, simple stuff. She made it work, and because it's Zoom, everyone could see it. Whereas if you try to do that in a big presentation in front of like a couple hundred people or 30 people, the people in the back won't be able to see it, and they'll be distracted by the things on the side. But she was able to get folks to zoom in and focus on her message. And she came in second, and it was, if any of you saw it, brilliant speech. It's on the Toastmasters website. I recommend it. This gentleman, again, the prop. He was able to use a prop effectively. You could see every detail of that prop. That it was a blue wristband. It was black, right? You can probably even see what time it was if you're on Zoom. But if you're doing that in a stage, you can't do that. Close-ups. Man, that's Mike Carr, the world champion of 2020. I mean, you could even see what the color of his fillings were, and even how many gray hairs he had in his mustache. I mean, that was the level of detail that you can see when you're doing Zoom. But you can't do that with an online, or you can't do that on stage. Very, very, and you could see that. He did that really effectively. And he was able to, and the thing, Mike was asked, like, how did you figure that out? Because again, the pandemic reached us in March of 2020, and the World Championship was August, 6 months later. And what Mike said was that he simply experimented with the camera. He just tried he spent hours experimenting. And again, if you're competing, you're serious, experiment. Again, this is a Kwang Yue Young, outstanding contestant. He's been a veteran. You can see a close-up, and you can see sort of the anxiety in his face that was communicated in his face, the doubt, the fear, whatever. Whereas you really couldn't communicate emotion as effectively in that way using a close-up shot when you compete on a large stage. So something to think about when you compete in the next few weeks and months in the online contest. Think of how the online process advantages you when you understand the strengths of the online process. More close-ups. Side stage. This is Mike Carr again. Again, he wasn't able to walk across a stage, and no, he had a very small stage. It was this, right? But he was able to sort of communicate what it meant to be on a side, or be fearful, or be sort of like a little boy. And at one point he talked about being a very fearful child, and so on and so on and so on. This is, I want to share this with you. This was a lady who was a finalist in 2020. She did a changing room routine, okay? And she was able to, how do I do this? Within the Zoom environment, she just basically dropped down. We couldn't really see her. And then she changed her clothes. And within maybe a space of about 12 seconds, she was able to show the transformation in her personality or in her condition in life in the space of about 10 seconds. You couldn't do a changing room on stage, could you? Yeah, it wouldn't work. People saying, what are you doing back there? Okay, but you can do that on Zoom very, very effectively. Now we use more ordinary camera experiences. This is, again, our dear friend Linda Marie Miller, who came in second. Mike Card doing a more, but again, he understood that he couldn't like go like this on a stage. He had to kind of measure his arm. So if you're going to do something like that, you can't go like this, but you can go like that and kind of reach out. And again, you have to practice. You have to practice with your own Zoom account to make sure it works. Right, Seth? I bet you do this all the time in your online trainings. This is Maureen Burns-Zapala, who later became an accredited speaker, etc. Oh, good old Maureen. Maureen was trying to convey emotion there very, very effectively. Finally, I want to leave you with, as you compete in the next couple of weeks at your club level and in the area level and division level over the next 2 months, consider the late night vibe. Now, this is my dear friend, Furzy Gotuaco. Furzy and I have become real good friends the last 3 years. I didn't know him until 2022, but he and I are members of an online advanced club. Thank you, Roseanne. That's right. She's the rocket scientist from NASA. Very good, Roseanne. Are you a rocket scientist too, Roseanne?
No way.
No, but you are an empowered woman.
I am that, yes.
That's right. And you found Maureen, believe me, she was a aeronautical engineer in the 80s. When there were not a lot of women. She was right out of Notre Dame in 85, 86. She got hired by NASA, and she tells the story of when she went in working for NASA as an aeronautical engineer. She was the only woman. It was like, what are we gonna do with her? So yeah, she's a great lady. So anyway, Furzy, who is a great contestant and probably might have won last year's world championship, except he went overtime by a second. He's a lovely guy, wonderful human being, great teacher. But basically, he pioneered the late night vibe in his speeches. He always had a dark background. He's very light-skinned. He's, I think, Filipino. He's Chinese Filipino, his ethnicity, but he's American. He's from Texas. He's from Texas. So, but he always pioneered sort of the dark background, always wore, therefore, a light tan suit. He has a light face to begin with. And so when he does online, that's usually his style. And he's different from a lot of the other contestants, but something you might want to think about when you compete at your club online speech contest in the next couple of weeks, as well as at area and division. Okay. So yeah, it is, Anna. Absolutely. It really was I keep telling world headquarters should put like a stop clock so that the contestants can see what's going on. Well, why make them go through like, gee, have I reached 30 seconds? No, just put a clock out there so they can see what's going on. So that's pretty much where we're at. And again, the late night vibe is Mike Wallace. And now we're going to get some of your thoughts, concerns, anxieties, and questions. And I'm going to unshare this hopefully I can figure out how to do that. Oh, Lord, I'm probably going to mess it up. This meeting is being, okay. Why don't we queue up the questions? In any event, while we do that, let me see if I can figure out how to, okay, was the slide unshared, I hope?
Yes, it was.
Thank God.
We helped you. If it didn't work on your end, we got you covered.
Thank you. So let's get some good, come on, stump the speaker. Let's have a challenge here. Let's stump Roseanne, I bet you can come up with a question that will stump me. You too, Gina. Gina has that kind of look on her face like, yeah, I don't know if this guy is making any sense. Let me ask him a tough question. I don't know. Tom, you got your head tilted, caught. You're like, what's this guy up? Go ahead, Helen.
All right.
My Toastmasters up in Westchester County. Make me my day.
When doing a speech online, I have been coached to stand up. There's more energy when you stand up. It's more vital and interesting. For those of us who have the space for it, that's great. My question is, do we need to be concerned about how far away from our camera mic we are? And how important is that? Do we need to invest in any kind of microphone connection?
No, you don't. Well, it depends on the quality of your computer. It depends on the quality of your computer. Now, when I competed 3 years ago through Founders District, which is in Southern California, and I did online contests. Right now I'm using an iMac, and the iMac has a good microphone. But yes, Helen, I know of some people that actually will buy a computer and then they have the cord and they hook it into the USB, blah, 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 in their computer. You can do that. But before you invest money, experiment with your Zoom account. Record yourself. Now, yes, standing up is crucial. Here again, I know some contestants super serious during the online. They actually purchased the pole, and they jury rigged their camera onto that pole, and again, I'm using the camera in the computer. Oops, sorry about that. I didn't mean to point, but I'll do it this way. I use the camera. I use the camera on the upper center of my laptop or whatever. Okay. Here again, and what I would do when I compete. I'm sitting today. I'm lazy, but when I competed, and even when I give speeches at my other clubs, I belong to an online club in California. When I give speeches like project speeches, I always stand. So what I do though is I use like stacks of boxes. I don't spend money unnecessarily on getting a tripod or a rod, and then I position my camera on it, and I connect the camera to my computer. No, I don't do that. I wish I should show you the photos, because I did keep photos of when I did the online studio back in the day, right? We all did that, and just to remind myself of how to reconstruct it when I have to. But yeah, I used the different boxes and I experimented, and I tried to make sure that this camera was at eye level. So I would make sure I had to have a sturdy, strong table, because when you put boxes on it, it might collapse the table. And then you can buy, and then sometimes I had to add some books, because it wasn't quite. So yeah, you can basically create your own studio using your computer, like I am today. And if you're not comfortable, experiment, do a trial run, do your own one person speech contest where you practice with your computer, record it, and then listen to the recording. And if you're thinking, yeah, the audio's fine, the visual's okay, then just go with it, especially for the club level. Now, if you had been a semifinalist in the World Championship like 4 years ago or 3 years ago, yeah, you might have invested in all that fancy stuff, or even a finalist, sure. But for club, area, division, even district, no, I don't think you need to do that. Okay. Hey, we pay enough in dues. You don't need to do that. Seth Greenwald had a question. Oh, wait, hold on. Roseanne, who is up first? I'm going to get Roseanne and Seth.
Yeah, Roseanne was up first.
I'm running on fumes a little bit, but
That's good.
what are the thoughts, feelings on slides over props on Zoom
For a contest, right?
or a contest? Yes. If I feel my slides are impactful enough, is that frowned upon? Is that helpful? Is it,
I've seen people win. I remember one year I was in one of the districts. I saw somebody win with PowerPoint. Now, they were in the PowerPoint. In other words, like what I did tonight, I was my face and even my shoulders were in the corner of the PowerPoint slides. So where's Roseanne? Roseanne, yeah, if you do that, you definitely want to make sure you're in the picture still. Okay. That's a great question. And Seth, this goes to the issue of myth versus reality, or rules versus the actual rules. Is there a rule that says you can't do that? There is no rule that says you can't do that. Okay.
No rule.
I think we have to check the rules. For example, when I'm using a virtual background, I'm pretty certain that when we did the contests online, we could not use virtual backgrounds. I remember I had to actually had to buy this like sheet, and I had to create like my own little in-person online studio that was where the background was not like this, a virtual background. Double check, Roseanne, the rule book is on the Toastmasters International website. Go through it and just make sure that there's nothing that says you can't do that, okay? But I've seen people do it. On the other hand, it's only 7 minutes talk, Roseanne. And you may think that it may be more compelling if you can speak directly to the camera, heart to heart, and get across your message to the audience. So those are some of the things to consider. On the other hand, if you have slides that are kind of clever, sometimes slides that have very little text, but kind of intriguing photos that are even like kind of ironically humorous, make people go, oh, that's pretty funny, but that's odd. That can be really effective. And I didn't do that tonight, but in some of my other speeches, some people will say, yeah, I'm pretty good at finding photos on the internet and creating speeches that, you can use a lot of humor with photos. Although you got to be careful about copyright. There'll be some judges that will say, where's the copyright in that? And I know there's a lady in our district that's very, very big on that. And Seth, I think, knows who she is. Seth Greenwald, you have a question, sir.
Yes, sir. Great presentation, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So funny that Roseanne asked the exact same question that I was going to ask in terms of slides. A lot of times people say, oh, it's cheating if you use slides because it's kind of like you're not memorizing your speech. You're looking at the slide. It's giving some clues on what to say. So I'm going to take it even one step further, Mark, and say, for an online contest, what do you think about if someone used notes, but not reading off like this, but if someone used like kind of like a teleprompter type of thing where you didn't even know that he was or she was reading off the teleprompter? What do you think? Now, that might be against the rules, but what if no one knew that they were doing this?
Not against the rules.
Okay? Yeah.
It's not against the rules. First of all, even if you competed on stage, and you read your speech, that's not against the rules.
Is it cheating? Like
not even cheating. I mean, okay, here we go with the issue of myth versus reality, rules versus
right.
Yeah, some of the judges might say, I don't know. Again, judges are they're comparing people. And they have to make a tough decision. I mean, it's not easy. How many of you have been judges? I've been judges. Like years ago, I was a contest judge. It's not easy. And I remember I used to go home and I'd feel really awful. I'd say, oh my God, did I make the right decision? Did I pick the right person? I mean, some of us, it's like, it can really tear you in knots. Like, oh, did I make the right call? It's not easy being a judge, but sometimes the judges are like, well, I like that speech, but that speech was really good. But that person had it memorized and totally internalized, and so I'm going to give that person the first place. So that's the aspect of the real human factor in judging. It's not easy judging, and judges are forced to judge between great speeches, and sometimes those little things will make a difference. So, Tom, how do we pronounce your family name? Did that help, Seth? And Roseanne, did we help with your reply to your question? Okay. We have questions, I think, time for two more from Tom and Ronke. Tom, how about you, sir? And tell us how to pronounce your family name.
It's Kasha.
Kasha. Oh, wow.
So, okay, thanks. So should you not use a virtual background? Would you recommend not, or trying to?
I have to check the rules. If the rules say they cannot use a virtual background, then you don't use a virtual background.
I just posted the reference from the rule book. Use of props are electronic devices. You just declare it as your prop, and it's within the rules.
Could you repeat that, Anna?
8th
You
paragraph.
don't have to cite it. Just repeat what you just said slowly.
8th paragraph, use of props and electronic devices. Point A, contestants who plan to use props, including but not limited to any sorts of electronic devices, music, PowerPoint slides, or virtual backgrounds, must notify contest chair prior to the contest. That's it. You just say you will use it, and it's fine.
So that's a yes. That's a yes to a virtual background. So, that's good for me. I wanted to find that old sheet again and put it up on my wall. Okay, so virtual background is okay, and PowerPoint is okay. Roseanne, you can do PowerPoint. Nothing in the rules against it. Thank you, Anna. And by the way, Anna was our District 46 Chief Judge this past year, and she knows her stuff. She knows her stuff. We have one more question from Ronke, because we're coming up on the hour.
Thank you, Mark, for that presentation. I don't know why I'm not showing. I must have pressed one button or the
That's
other.
okay, Ronke.
So my question is, I just want to reconfirm because I'm an area director and I want to encourage all the clubs in my division to participate
Yes.
In the online context. So are you saying that they can read off their script?
Yes. There's nothing in the rules that say you can't read off a script. That's the actual rule. But I will tell you, when they go to higher levels of competition, like the area level or the division level, in a competitive environment where all other factors are equal, you have two speeches that are equally competent and impressive, but one person is reading a script and the other person has it memorized. I will tell you that in about 99%, I would tell you the judges will probably give it to the person who at least they feel, well, took the effort to memorize the speech. That's just basically my observation of how judges operate. Okay. Now, I think Seth, or was it that said you can use a teleprompter? Yeah, people do that. Frankly, I'm not very gifted. You have to have another computer and with a screen, and you have to have the thing rolling, and I would probably mess it up. So that's why I say to myself, just memorize it. But for those of us getting older and are having cognitive issues, yeah, the teleprompter is not a bad idea. Not for you, Seth. You're still a young man, but for an old guy like me, yeah, maybe I may need a teleprompter in a few years. But no, it's as long the audience won't know that you're using a teleprompter, so it's okay. And if you want to read your notes, or if you do it in such a way where it's obvious that you've read your notes, that's okay. It's not against the rules. Will it mean that you're more likely to win over someone who's memorized it? Probably not, though. Okay. Thank you very much, Stella. I believe we have come up on the 1 hour, and I want to thank you all. And this was an honor, and so many great questions. And by the way, where's Anna Stepanova? Hopefully I got your last name with the right emphasis.
It was perfect. It was perfect yet another time.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you all. So many great, I see Global Yoga Voices. I met a lot of them this year. Loretta Jasor, gosh, from the Co-op City Toastmasters, and so many great people. There's a Goodwill Toastmasters, which is the Rotary. Of course, the famous Rotary, La Voz Latina. Didn't you host a contest this year, I think? A division contest, I believe. No, maybe it was some other club. So back to you, Stella. Thank you again for having me. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much,
Mark.
This was wonderful. Everyone, please give Mark a round of applause. He did an amazing job. One thing is, you don't even have to use those tips for competing. You can use it in your own personal life, in your professional life too. They are great tips. And I put together a survey. Can you please fill that out, so that, because we use that to improve our programming and give you what you want. So till the next time, thank you. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you, Mark. Take care. We'll send out the recording as well to everyone.